All right, so welcome everybody officially to our July monthly meeting. We have what I think is going to be an awesome presentation, but MetroHealth has a brand new clinic that we're going to hear about. It's called the Adaptive Life Technologies Lab, or the ALT Lab. And it promotes clinically guided, peer-informed, and community collaborative assistive technology provision to individuals living with SCI throughout Northeast Ohio. The ALT Lab exposes patients to a wide variety of technologies to meet clinical goals beyond those targeted in traditional rehabilitation, including home automation, environmental control, computer access, and adaptive gaming, among other things. The ALT Lab is a new clinical service offered in the MetroHealth Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation Department, and is comprised of Blake Perkins, who joins us tonight, a credentialed physical therapist and assistive technology professional, and Stephen Polakowski, also joining us tonight. I lost my place, sorry. An information technology expert and business owner. Both Blake and Steve are individuals living with spinal cord injury, so supplementing their professional expertise with invaluable lived experiences. Blake and Steve are both here with us tonight to tell us more about the ALT Lab. So thank you so much for joining, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen if I can. Oh, can you enable screen sharing for me, Megan?
Should be able to now.
Yep, sure can. Okay. Everybody see that?
Mark.
Yes. Yes, cool. All right. So I'll yap away kind of about our presentation here, and leave a whole bunch of time at the end for questions and anything that you like to talk about as it pertains to this. So keep it relaxed, and definitely want to open things up for questions that you guys might have. But yeah, this is the Adaptive Life Technologies Lab. We started, I think we started this at the beginning of May. And we'll get into kind of what it is and what we do and what we hope to do here. Our mission statement is to enhance the functional capabilities of individuals with spinal cord injury through evidence-based, peer-informed, clinical, and community collaborative technology provision. So it is supported by the Nielsen Foundation. So right now, you know, we're seeing people with spinal cord injury exclusively to meet program goals that Nielsen Foundation, we identified that whenever we submitted a grant proposal, and trying to hit those goals. But as a part of this that I'll talk about in a little bit, we hope to, after the conclusion of this grant and this program, to expand this to all individuals living with various types of disabilities. So this is kind of what it is exclusive for right now, which is great for our group to talk about. This is the long version of the ALT Lab. I'm not reading all this, but blah, blah, blah. Here's what the ALT Lab really is. Okay, so the adaptive, we use the word adaptive. And my mentor, Ann Bryden, is a sociologist, and I think that it's a shift in perspective from technologies to assist the individual toward more technologies that adapt the environment to meet functional goals, to improve community reintegration, access and control over your home, these sort of things. So it shifts the perspective a little bit, and I'm sure I butchered that, but we're trying to, that's kind of why we went with that adaptive instead of assistive. Assistive is a commonly used term that I'm sure most of us are familiar with. But the ALT Lab is unique in that it's promoting technology exposure not dictated by insurance coverage. So, you know, you go to the wheelchair clinic, you know that you're getting wheelchairs, cushions, seating, equipment, you know, that you've got insurance limitations and you're going to talk about the stuff that insurance covers. I personally and professionally don't endorse that approach. I think that it's important for people who are living with disabilities to know as much of the technology landscape as possible to make informed decisions, to get creative about how we identify funding sources and these sort of things, rather than kind of take the path of least resistance with regards to traditional payer sources like insurances. The Alt Lab is clinician guided. I am the clinician involved, and it's also guided by the technology expertise of Steve and myself. Steve much more from a tech standpoint, me more from an assistive tech / clinical standpoint. So what really separates this program, I think, and what we're trying to do and lay the framework for its benefit to people that we see in the program, is that it's about as lived experience centric as you could get. So I'm a person living with spinal cord injury. Steve is too. We'll talk about that in a minute. But there are not many other programs out there that have quite that importance and that priority placed on that. It's community collaborative. We'll also talk about that. We work with people and departments within MetroHealth to identify barriers to make sure that we're hitting clinical goals that we want to. We also work with people and organizations outside of MetroHealth, so to help overcome some of these barriers that we might identify. So Cleveland State University, Spinal Cord Injury Volunteer Corps will be assisting us, and I'll get into details with that in a little bit as well. Why is this sort of program, this sort of lab important? I'll speak from what information that I've collected and speaking with a lot of individuals, with a lot of programs. Also speak with my own personal experience is you really don't know what you don't know. There's limited technology exposure in traditional rehab. There's frankly limited technology exposure and knowledge for rehab clinicians. So for instance, my physical therapy boards, I only had to really know approximately 3% of my state license boards were over assistive technology. And assistive technology can be anything from a device as simple as a grip aid or a walker to, a quad stick to, augmentative and alternative communication devices. There's a really, really small priority placed whenever we're going through our training as clinicians. It's similar for OTs. OTs, I think, get about 5%. They're responsible for about 5% on their boards, but there's just not a lot of time or priority placed on that because that's not how you get licensed. So that translates into the rehab environment, which then translates into the patients and a lack of exposure for them. So I also think that from my experience personally and professionally, sort of we have to identify restorative technologies. So technologies that might restore a body function. And then whenever we hit a plateau in therapy, shift our focus from restoring a body function to meet an activity goal to then augmenting for the loss of function possibly. So, maybe we're not going to be able to restore your ability to, reach above your head, pull a string, turn on a fan, because we can't restore upper extremity function sufficient to do that. But we could restore your ability to do that task with technologies out there. So simple things like voice controlled technologies, alternative switches, these sort of things. You're focused more on the task, or much more than you are the body function. And this really plays into this nice cherry pie of ways that we can meet goals for patients if we get creative and really have a thorough understanding of not only the human, but the activity they're trying to accomplish and the technology that is out there that could restore their ability to complete that activity. So that's why this is important. It's also reduces the resources that are wasted on technology trial and error. Just me personally, I wasted hundreds and hundreds of dollars coming out of rehab on things that looked cool, shiny objects that I saw on spinal cord injury forums online. And, you know, I lived in rural Kentucky where I grew up. So I didn't have, you know, spinal cord injury model systems to use as a resource. I didn't know where to turn to identify things. So I just tried stuff. And if it worked, great. And if it didn't, well, you know, it was a few $100s out of my pocket. So that gets old really quick. And if we can reduce that and minimize that as best we can, you know, that's a good thing. There's also a service gap that is kind of highlighted in this picture. So you've got established assistive technology programs at UPMC, at Ohio State, and then we are kind of up here, Northeast Ohio, in no man's land. So, you know, there's a clear gap in the resources that people like you and me have in Northeast Ohio. So we're trying to address that. And this program is hopefully laying a foundation and some groundwork for things moving forward to better serve people Northeast Ohio. Who's involved in the Alt Lab? So we're collaborating with MetroHealth PM&R department, Case Western Reserve University, including physicians, therapy clinicians, social workers, research investigators, administrative staff, as well as, like I mentioned, Cleveland State University SCI Volunteer Corps. And the Cleveland State University SCI Volunteer Corps, their role in this would be with certain devices, not with all devices. Obviously, we're not going to have them doing electrician work or plumbing work or things that are going to put you or them at risk. As end users and people who are going to benefit from this technology. But if it's a matter of removing things from boxes, plugging them in, getting them configured, making sure that you're signed up with the right username and password for you know, this device, and this device is now talking to your voice control device, which I'm not going to say ALEXA. You've got to get all those things configured appropriately. They're going to help out with some of that stuff. So it's very, very cool that they're partnering with us to do that. So here's what separates us. We're the unicorn from programs that I've spoken with. That's me. There's Steve, handsome devil. We are the two really kind of front men of this program. So you're going to be working with me and Steve whenever you come into the lab, and you'll also we'll be your points of contact. Me predominantly being your point of contact as you go through the process of identifying, trying, configuring, and then the installation in home of some of this stuff. So we're trying to establish a full service program, full service delivery model where we're identifying goals, identifying technologies, seeing it through to the end where people are benefiting from the technology. And then this is also going to, if things work out, like we hope they will, be a perpetual resource for people. So, you know, you'll check it out whenever you check it out, but it'll also be a resource over time. And we all know as technology changes over time, so will the lab. It'll grow and change with technologies as new ones become available. So Steve is right there. IT business owner, 26 years IT experience, possibly a Vin Diesel impersonator or lookalike. I don't know, you be the judge. 8 years post SCI. There's his business, C-Tech LLC. Steve, talk about yourself. Your microphone working?
I can't believe you put that on there. Yeah, I've been injured coming up on 8 years now, and been a business owner in the IT world. So as soon as I came home, I started buying, like you said, everything to see what would work. And you throw away a lot, you learn some, and at this point, now I'm just passing that along to everybody else. I live in all the lights and communication with everything, TV, fans, all that every day. I deal with a lot of the back end of that stuff. So I guess I'm just a good resource for Blake. He was smart enough to dragged me along right from the get-go because he knew I had already fought with all this stuff. So yeah, as we work through this thing, I kind of figure out the niches and deal with the stuff that makes you bang your head on the wall to get it all working. Blake's just an Apple guy, so somebody's got to do the hard work.
That's right. That's right. All right. And this is me. I'm my professional letters, all the letters after my name are physical therapist, doctor of physical therapy, assistive technology professional, blah, blah, blah. I'm a physical therapist who's obsessed with assistive technology. And I've been at MetroHealth for going on 3 years, and I'm a lead clinician in the outpatient wheelchair clinic. And then we're starting this adaptive life technologies lab, and I have hopes that that we continue to head in the direction that we're heading in over the past few years, and things continue to grow as a resource for people here in Northeast Ohio. I do know what it's felt like to not have that as a resource, and not have really any resources. Being from where I'm from, there's certainly much better resources up here in Northeast Ohio than I was used to in rural Kentucky. But we have work yet to do to best serve people living with spinal cord injury and other disabilities ultimately. So yeah, like I said, ATP, assistive technology. I'm a has-been musician. Now I'm a dad, and so musician is for my daughter Della James. That's pretty much it. I occasionally play out every now and then. I'm 12 years following a spinal cord injury, thoracic level spinal cord injury. Like I said, back in rural Kentucky. That was prior to me going to school to become. I got undergrad in bachelor's of science in exercise science, and then doctorate in physical therapy. So went through school, getting all my degrees and diplomas as a person living with paraplegia from spinal cord injury. So that is I. That's my wife Tammy, also right there. So how does this work? So the first visit for the alt lab is it's an evaluation. So it could be done over a video visit, telehealth, it could also be done in person. I've kind of seen a trend here in the short time we've been doing it where people like having the first visit over video, so it saves them having to organize a trip and align all the stars to get that done twice, because really the first visit is not a technology trial and exposure situation. It's really just a more or less boring physical therapy evaluation where I'll identify what your function is, what your goals are. We'll prioritize those goals that could be met with technologies that we have to trial and expose you to in the alt lab. And then we kind of also, in that same visit, identify funding barriers, funding options, what's the path toward getting you the technology that we identify for you. And there's obviously the path of least resistance is you paying for it yourself. But I understand as well as anybody that some of this stuff gets expensive. Some of it doesn't. Much of it that we'll talk about actually is quite price efficient, but some of it does get expensive. And with many of us, especially right after injuries, we don't have a whole lot of disposable income. So we try to identify funding options for folks as well. And right now, I'll get to this in a minute with regards to possible funding options. So that's visit one. Visit two would be the training and configuration of the technology in person at the Adaptive Life Technologies Lab with me and Steve. Steve is he's virtually present, Wizard of Oz behind the screen, and he helps guide us on really the configuration, the use of different types of technologies that we have in the lab, and can help problem solve in real time with a lot of those things. Beyond visit two, so we train, we configure on these identified technologies that are going to help meet some of these goals that we've set for you. Beyond that, if you have family members or alternative means to get this stuff purchased, shipped to your house and installed, great, path of least resistance. If you don't, Then we have a partnership with CSU, Spinal Cord Injury Volunteer Corps, like I mentioned previously, to help with the in-home installation and configuration of some devices. Again, some of the things that we'd expose you to and that you might target as things that would make a big difference for you could require professional installation from electricians or plumbers or that sort of thing. But for the things that don't, again, kind of the voice control things, getting accounts set up and passwords identified and all that stuff, that they can be helpful with that. So some of the funding options currently, we've pushed several orders, if you will, of technologies through Medicaid waiver programs, and I have not received no's so far. I think that because this is kind of a odd program, not odd, but a new program where we're requesting unusual technologies that are not typically requested in Northeast Ohio, because we haven't had a program similar to this for a while, at least that I'm aware. I think that we're kind of throwing people for loops. So there's conversations that I have yet to have, that I need to have with these caseworkers and management people in Ohio Medicaid waiver programs to really kind of communicate effectively on what we're trying to do, what the goals that we've identified are, what the barriers that they might see and liabilities and these sort of things. But we're working with them on that. So that's part of this program, is to really kind of lay the groundwork for this moving forward, so that there are easier pathways to follow. Opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities, which is vocational rehab. We haven't utilized them yet, but similar to Medicaid waiver programs, I see no reason why we can't utilize them, particularly as it pertains to getting people, back to work and getting the technology that will allow them to do that in their hands and in front of them, configured in their home, wherever they might be working. Bureau of Workers' Compensation, that's another one that I anticipate that we might come across every now and then, that could be a funding option. And then, like I said, the path of least resistance with all this is self-purchasing, but it's informed decisions with how you spend your money, which is really, really important. You spend your money on things that you've tried, that you've prioritized, you've seen and used in person. It's much easier and wiser to do so, in my opinion. So those are kind of some of the funding options that we have. And then what technologies, you might ask, are in the alt lab? So the big one that really is kind of meat and potatoes with a lot of this is this right here. So voice control, ALEXA for many folks. We've configured a lot of the technology, the smart technologies in there to listen to ALEXA. I'm not saying it so I don't turn any of your alls on, so that you don't have to the hand function, upper extremity function isn't a precluding factor to controlling some of these devices. So power bed control, I just got word from a manufacturer last week that we're going to get a voice controlled power bed module, which controls to a typical insurance funded power control bed, where you can use your voice to tell what angle you want your head at, how high you want it, do you want your feet up. It's just independent voice control bed positioning. So we also have some lower tech stuff. So meal prep, different types of feeding utensils, adaptive utensils, workout utensils, exercising, water bottles over here, simple home modification stuff like T-handled door pulls that a lot of people aren't exposed to, but they're $20 and they keep you from falling over yourself trying to reach for a doorknob whenever you get out of a door. Adaptive gaming, mentioned that previously. That's something that I'm getting set up this week to try with the first patient I'm coming across. Adaptive gaming it's cool, but it's a interface also for the internet or community reintegration, possible return to work. There's a lot of things that you can do whenever you have a reliable way of controlling a reliable control interface that could be provided by something like an adaptive Xbox controller. This one was really cool too. Freedom Tracks. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. I reached out to that manufacturer last week and found out they were more than willing to ship us a Freedom Tracks system, which is basically turns manual chair into a track chair, which is I'm really excited about. There's only one other hospital in the country that has one of those, and it's Craig Hospital in Colorado. So that's exciting. Other simple stuff, for individuals who might have lower injuries, but this is it's called a J protector. And this is something that you strap on like a harness whenever you're doing floor transfers. If you screw around on the floor a lot, we know if you do that, you're going to damage your skin, you're going to skin issues, skin breakdown, everything just can crumble really quickly. So keeping your butt protected and keeping yourself mobile and in good health with some of the technologies that are available to help that are things that we want to prioritize. And so that's something there. Quad stick, another control interface for people with limited hand function that you can use to access the computer to work. Steve's using one right now as he's meeting with us. So it's, there are one of the barriers with this were hygiene concerns, but we have a 3D printer. So each person that we identify as a good candidate to try this we 3D print a mouthpiece for this. And I've purchased all the tubing and filters so that there are no hygiene issues. So everybody that comes in there that is appropriate for that has their own mouthpiece to try it on. So yeah, this is definitely not an exhaustive list. There's a bunch of stuff in there, but these kind of give you an idea how encompassing some of the tech in the lab is. It's really, whenever you talk about assistive technology, or we're calling it adaptive technologies, it's such a large umbrella of stuff, that you really it can become overwhelming if you just start thinking about all that's out there. But if you, again, prioritize what's important to you from a task standpoint, then that can help gear your focus on what technology is out there that can help you accomplish that task. So that's kind of what we're doing. How do I get scheduled and all that? If you are a patient in MetroHealth, you can ask your spinal cord injury doctor, primary care physician to place a referral for you. If they don't know what the Adaptive Life Technologies lab is, they can reach out to me directly. You send me a message and I can guide them on that. If you're not a patient at MetroHealth, you can contact me directly. Email right there, phone right there. I'll help guide you through it. It would be a simple referral from your doctor, pending you're not on home health, physical therapy, occupational or speech services, or in a facility. And over the course of this grant, the 2-year grant, we're also wanting to, one of the sub goals of this program is to just establish a community resource. So I'm working on getting other clinicians, other people involved that can, even for folks who don't have the ability to be seen in an outpatient therapy environment because of whatever insurance restrictions, they still can access the technology, whether it's tours or materials that are posted online that you can access to see, how this stuff works, videos on somebody using it, possibly videos from us using it in the lab. So that is one of the goals of this program, is to just establish a community resource for anybody who could possibly benefit from it. So yeah, what else? I think that's about it. I'd like to open it up for questions. I think I got some chat right here. Oh, those were the announcements. All right, I'll stop sharing my screen and open it up for questions. Steve, you got anything to add that I missed?
You did a fantastic job there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No, I guess, like I said, I'm here more for the technical side of stuff. You make it nice and pretty.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you for the class. Any questions at all? Sweet. It's easy enough.
No.
Steve.
A great Rob, that there's 0 questions.
Take it.
What are some of the things that you can control with the voice automation devices?
So voice control devices, you can, voice control door openers, there's voice control microwaves, voice control faucets, voice control deadbolts for doors. What else, Steve? Voice control heated blankets.
Yeah, I mean, I probably spit out, I don't know, 100 voice commands a day. It's horrible, but at the same time, it allows me to control everything. I mean, I have my doorbell, so when somebody rings the doorbell, I can say a command and it shows up on my TV. At which point, then I can talk to the Amazon device and talk to the front door. I control my central air. I have a Dyson fan that I can control the airflow on. I have all my other cameras set up. I control Android TV, Fire TV ecosystems. I open and close my garage door. I got an Amazon device out in the garage. When we get home, I tell it a command. It'll turn on some lights up by the house. I have an open sesame system, so I can say open the front door and my front door swings open and closed. Yeah, I mean, it goes on down the line. Like right now I'm working on setting up a automated watering system for my plants outside. It's pretty much set up. Next step is to get that voice control or Wi-Fi, so I can change that whether it's raining or not. Yeah, I mean, you name it, everything around here. Then Blake's got a lot more stuff set up over there, like with the kitchen things, with water, and you lucky guys that can use your hands. All those different devices in there, like the door locks. But I mean, everything from unlocking my door to I'm really self-sufficient. It was driving me crazy at first, all these simple things that I couldn't do. But the biggest thing I think is a quad stick. We see people come into clinic and they don't think they need it, or they don't think it's going to be useful. And everybody a different genre as soon as they pull up in front of that desk, and you get to integrate voice control where you can talk and everything come up on there. And then I mean, the quad stick's just as simple as you move it around and you puff, and that's your mouse, and your mouse click. So everything past that's as far as you want to take it. You play Call of Duty. It's limitless. It's set up to where you can integrate to control your TVs. It's Bluetooth, so you can have it control your computer, but you can also have it control your tablet. It basically, as soon as you plug into your tablet, it turns into a mouse. So your phone, your tablet. I bring my cell phone up on the computer screen, and then therefore I can control my cell phone with the quad stick on my computer screen. That's great because I do a lot of my stuff voice to text on my phone, but you can't go in there and modify the menus or test things or adjust things. It's kind of like whatever works, works. Well, once you get the quad stick to where you can control your phone, that's when you can go in there and test things and get it set up and tweak them, and then make it easier for voice to text when you're out and about. I mean, yeah, everything. Like you said, I have a Wi-Fi blanket. My battle this year has really been temperature, either cooking or freezing. And sometimes I can go back and forth twice in one night, from hypothermia to nerve pain from cooking. So we're working on a thermometer that tests your body nonstop, gives a constant display. We looked for the products and couldn't find them. So we're building it, and Blake's helped me, and we've some of the students at CSU are helping with that project, and that'll be a constant monitor of my body. And I guess I'm going to be the test dummy. And but I'm hoping to be able to monitor the temperature outside, temperature, like maybe stick something under my armpit that's constant. And from there, then that'll integrate to the point where, like, I have a Wi-Fi heated blanket, which has changed a lot because, you start getting cold in the middle of the night, to be able to just turn that thing on, set it a little bit. That's really changed a lot too. So eventually we want to get that to where you can tell you're going up or down and turn your blanket on or turn your fan on before that even gets to that point. I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but I am constantly chasing the right temperature. So yeah, that's about everything I control in the day.
Yeah, exactly. And so the lab also, I hope that it becomes something where, people start to share ideas and it can kind of be a hub or a registry for, like if you're aware of this technology, maybe I'm not aware of it, maybe Steve's not aware of it, share it. Let's expose people to it. Let's let them try it. It makes a big difference for you because, as much as I obsess about technology and Steve does too, as two people who live with, spinal cord injury and think about it all the time. I'm sure there's stuff that somebody out there has seen and used that's probably novel to us and would benefit people. So, the more you can have conversations about this stuff and have a hub and place for it, the better you can serve people as a whole. And so we hope to do that. And partnering with, engineering students is a lot of fun too. So I'm not an engineer. I just get to a lot of times say, Steve, that's a great idea. What can we do to make it happen and connect the dots for folks? So it's a lot of fun and we're kicking off something that I hope lasts a long time. So excited about it. But yeah, I'll quit yapping.
Yeah, tell us what your needs are.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was just gonna say, tell us what your needs are, and that's the fun, is to try and figure out what different products allow us to make that work. I set up a gentleman that is blind without touch. It started off without sense of touch. It started off being able to voice control his bidet and ended up programming his TV and everything throughout the house. So, I mean, it's definitely all a custom one-off option. And as we're learning more and we're using more of these programming boards, and I think we're going to expand and be able to, do a lot more one-off things for everybody and what they need. So we look forward to the challenge, I guess.
Exactly. And so, there is one platform out there that allows, that's a software platform that ties everything from this environmental control, home automation stuff together. There's only one, and it costs $25,000. So unless you got 25K to kill, I don't. You have to really be smart about how you configure stuff and prioritize stuff and get it to talk together and communicate like it should, and be able to problem solve to some degree too. The more autonomy you can have and more control over that stuff you can have, the better. Because we've talked about, what if the Wi-Fi goes out, or you forget this password, you forget this login credential, what do you do? So yeah, it's a challenge, and it's a pretty customized, it's not a one size fits all situation, that's for sure. What else we got? Anything?
I have just a brief comment. Hello, great job, you guys. I love this lab. I think you've done a fantastic job. And I just wanted to point out that the more that the whole community brings to you all as far as problems to solve, adaptive technology to look for, it strengthens the greater good for everybody. So you're just going to have a wide network of solutions to offer people. And of course, I'm always interested in ways that we can avoid, or I guess ways that we can promote people's access to these technologies. So I know that's another thing you've been looking at. And so that's all I have to say. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Yep, that's a great point. So the access thing, and again, on the slideshow I put you don't know what you don't know, and you really don't. So I've come across a lot of folks in the clinic who kind of just, all right, this is a task that I'm never going to be able to do. I'm going to rely on my caregiver, rely on my support person to do this. And for some folks, that's fine. But if improving your independence and your ability to perform that task is important to you, I would challenge you to approach us with those conversations, and let's see what we can do to solve it, if there is something. A big part of this too is, like, we've got all these people involved. We've got collaboration from Spinal, from CSU, from Case Western, MetroHealth, Steve. We've got a lot of really, diverse thinkers and good resources to problem solve for folks. So it's a shift in mindset, I think, to really looking at how we can configure the tech that's out there, or identify the gaps in the technology that's out there, and put an engineer to work on coming up with something that can solve it. Kind of like what we're talking about with this temperature sensor feedback system, where it really kind of creates an autonomous environment. You don't have to wake up and cook and think about how you're going to cool down, or vice versa. Wake up freezing and think about how you're going to heat back up. So yeah, we're going to hope. We have to do a lot of stuff with it. Yeah. Any questions at all from anybody?
Earlier, show the map and the two circles on the map, Columbus and somewhere Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I'm wondering if there's a way to, and so you were mentioning as far as the engineers and designing something. I'm just wondering what type of communication exists between what you're building and what they already have going.
Jacob, first, good to hear you, man.
Nice to see you, Blake.
There's a lot of communication. So whenever this idea was, this is full disclosure, a big part of the foundation of this was Dr. Aaron Bryden's brainchild. We've just taken it and expanded upon it. So credit where credit is due. But I've had conversations with the ATC, the Assistive Technology Center in Columbus, with the CAT, or the Center for Assistive Technology in Pittsburgh. I'm a couple of things. I'm trying to identify how they do it at a high level and how they've managed to sustain it, because both of those things are critically important. Doing it at a high level, what are the outcome measures that we're trying to paint a picture of to patients, to payers, that show and demonstrate the value that a program like that can bring to people. And then how do you make it sustained? So how is it not just a 2-year grant and then it goes away? And there are ways that they've done that I've learned from them, and something that I hope to do in the long term is to have an engineering and rehab engineer as a resource, and be able to show that we can fund that person to help out with some of this in-home installation and some of these novel problems that people are going to identify, so to kind of solve them in real time for folks. Because I'm a therapist, I like working on cars, I'm kind of mechanical, but I'm not an engineer, and most clinicians are not engineers. So, that there are gaps in what we're doing right now that we're trying to fill over time, that have kind of been illuminated by those programs, like what they're doing that we want to do. They're doing it really well. So how can we be more like them? And then add a unique spin on it, that we think separates us, that I think separates us, is that we want to be as end user focused, as lived experience, intimately involved in this process as we possibly can be. I don't think that that's necessarily mandatory to do it at a really high level, but I think that it's, when you can do it and include that in a program like this, it can only improve things as far as I'm concerned. So at least that's my selling point so far. Did that answer your question, Jacob?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm interested in, even just from the perspective of the patient, the consumer, how could I, so this is something that you guys are just venturing down yourselves and building. And so I'm kind of wondering, from a consumer point of view, how can I do some research on my own? What resources are out there to, let my curiosity play as far as what tools and technology other people are using to their advantage, to be more integrated into the community and to be more able to perform, job duties, just a lot of life And so, yeah, I guess that's just where I'm going with this. I guess could I call up those two circles? Could I call up Columbus or Pennsylvania as a patient and say, hey, I'm considering coming there for rehab or something, and want to know what type of assistive technology equipment that you guys are working with? I'm not saying that I would do that necessarily. I'm just saying, well, what type of avenues are there to be able to communicate with what's already successful, to be able to tap into?
First, come see us.
Oh, of course.
Then
I think I may already have an appointment there. Well, not an appointment, but a doctor's order.
If we can't solve the problem, then I can help bridge that gap. So, like with the Pittsburgh thing, it's out of state. So I don't know how the funding stuff works with your insurance. I don't know, but I'd be more than happy to, like, if we say, all right, we're not, we're shrugging our shoulders, I can loop you in with Pittsburgh context. I can reach out to people at Ohio State. I can definitely bridge those gaps for folks. So yeah, no, I'm more than happy to do that.
Well, and if you have an idea or something that you want to get set up that you think technology, or you got an idea and you're looking around and it's not online, I mean, that's where you get with Blake, and he's got the ability to get with Eric and these guys and get an engineer. And like the thermometer, we put the parts together, and in 48 hours, Cameron had it up and alive and running, so I really, there's a whole network now that's getting to where you can, if you're looking at something and it seems viable, we have channels we can get it actually working along now, and an actual thing. So
And we
look
can
it up.
make
If you don't see it, we can make it.
and we make sure that it's not already out there. So like this whole voice control bed thing, I thought, and I think me and Steve both thought that was some novel invention. Like, oh, that doesn't exist. There's a gap. We've got to come up with something like that. And I talked to Mike Fu, who's an engineer and professor at Case Western, and like within 10 minutes, he just did the right search on Google. And he's like, oh yeah, there's a company called Orateller in Canada. I'm like,
Now you got to decide if it's worth the price.
yeah,
We
yeah,
make it into a homemade unit, or how it all goes. That's where we keep going now. Like,
right,
now you got to justify their costs. Like he was saying, that unit to control your whole house is $20,000. So we have to look at which parts of that you really want and a cheaper way to do it. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're building a database of what the different options are as we go.
right, exactly.
There is a question in the chat asking if you help make bathrooms accessible.
Help make bathrooms accessible. Like, I guess, from what perspective? I would ask as a follow-up. From like a construction perspective, or?
The question is, do you help with ideas to make bathrooms accessible, and then like shower chair?
So shower chairs with the ideas, definitely can come up with some ideas, but the shower chair thing is, that's something that can be covered by insurances. Medicaid and Medicaid waiver would both consider those things. When you consider, bathroom accessibility, a lot of times I'll partner with vendors who will measure the specs of a bathroom, and then we'll have an idea of, okay, we got this space to work with. Are we going to be able to connect the dots with waiver programs? Waiver programs will do home modifications. Some of them will. But if you can't, then we talk about what space we got, what sort of seating arrangements that we can put in there so that somebody can't use the restroom. And then we go from there. We spec out the equipment. That's not something I would say we've done yet, but I do that a lot in wheelchair clinic more than I do adaptive life technology lab. But again, this is a lab that kind of spills over because I work in a wheelchair clinic and I kind of run that aspect of it. And then it's also spilling over with adaptive life technology. So it's not just we're only going to talk about voice control. We're only going to talk about this sort of a thing. It's like, if you got a problem, we got resources. Let's figure out a way to solve it.
Well, and also in the bathrooms, you have like where you were looking up the faucets that you can tell it the temperature and to turn it on and turn it off. You got the proximity lights when you just go in the bathroom, the lights turn on or
Right.
how long you want them on for. So there is that technology you start to put in there too. I've seen things where people have custom drawers when they open it up or things lift up autonomously and bring a shelf up to them. So there's that stuff too on that side of it. Like I said, I did that one off with they were looking for a toilet to where you could flush it by voice and we had the ability to do it. I ended up working on more of his TV stuff than that, but we did have the ability to make it to where you could flush the toilet by voice. So there's all those different things in there too.
I'm always amazed at what is out there. The more that I learn. We have a couple other, or we have a couple more minutes. Are there any other questions? Okay, Blake, Steve, thank you so much for being here, for sharing with us. I hope everybody goes to check out this clinic. I think it's awesome. Thank you so much. Let me stop.